The United States government owes $37 trillion. That's more debt than any nation in human history. More debt than the entire global economy produced in a single year, just 2 decades ago. And here's what nobody's telling you. They're not planning to pay it back. They're planning to erase it, not through default, not through austerity, not through higher taxes, through devaluation, strategic, calculated, invisible theft of purchasing power from everyone holding dollars. And the mechanism they're using is something most people think is separate from government: crypto and gold. You're watching the US government execute the most sophisticated debt elimination strategy ever attempted. They're building a parallel financial system, accumulating strategic reserves in Bitcoin and gold, preparing to revalue those assets at multiples of current prices, and using that revaluation to technically balance a debt that's mathematically unpayable. But here's the part that should terrify you. When they revalue gold and crypto upward, they're simultaneously devaluing the dollar downward. Every dollar you hold loses purchasing power. Every bond you own becomes worthless. Every savings account evaporates in real terms. You're about to be robbed. Legally, quietly, completely. And most people won't even realize it happened until it's too late. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Not theory, not speculation. The actual mechanics of debt devaluation through strategic reserve revaluation. I'll show you the historical precedent. This has happened before, multiple times. I'll show you what the US government is doing right now, the executive orders, the Bitcoin reserves, the gold accumulation, and I'll show you the timeline, when this happens, how fast it happens, and what you must do before it's too late. Because this isn't coming in 20 years. It's happening right now. The pieces are moving into place. And once it executes, there's no going back. Let me start with something most people don't understand. Government debt is not like household debt. When you owe money, you have to pay it back with real value. Work more hours, sell assets, cut spending. But governments have a tool you don't have. They control the currency. And controlling the currency means they can change the rules. They can redefine what a dollar is worth. They can revalue the assets on their balance sheet. They can make debt disappear without ever paying it. This is called monetary reset, and it's happened repeatedly throughout history. Let me show you the pattern. In 1933, the United States was drowning in debt from World War I and the Great Depression. The debt to GDP ratio was 40% and climbing. The economy was collapsing. Deflation was destroying everything. So President Franklin Roosevelt did something radical. He revalued gold, not by a little bit, by 69%, overnight. Here's how it worked. In 1933, gold was officially priced at $20.67 per ounce. That had been the price since 1879. For 54 years, 1 ounce of gold equaled $20.67. The dollar was defined as 1/20th of an ounce of gold. This was the gold standard. Your dollar was literally a claim on physical gold. But the government was broke. They couldn't pay their debts at the current gold price. So Roosevelt issued Executive Order 6102. He made it illegal for Americans to own gold. You had to turn in your gold to the government. They paid you $20.67 per ounce, the official price. Most Americans complied. They traded their gold for dollars. Then, after the gold was collected, Roosevelt revalued it. In 1934, he announced the new official gold price, $35 per ounce, a 69% increase. Overnight. Here's what that did. The US government owned most of the nation's gold. They just confiscated it. At the old price of $20.67, their gold reserves were worth about $4 billion. At the new price of $35, those same reserves were suddenly worth $6.8 billion. They created $2.8 billion in value out of thin air, just by changing the price. But here's the key. The debt they owed was denominated in dollars. Those dollars were now worth less relative to gold. Before the revaluation, the government debt was 40% of GDP. After the revaluation and the inflation it caused, the real debt burden fell to 25% of GDP within 5 years. They erased 15 percentage points of debt to GDP just by revaluing gold and devaluing the dollar. And American citizens, holding dollars, they lost 40% of their purchasing power, not immediately, but through the inflation that followed over the next decade. The government transferred wealth from dollar holders to debt elimination. The people who had turned in their gold at $20.67 watched it get revalued to $35, but they couldn't buy it back. It was illegal. They were stuck holding devalued dollars while the government erased debt using their confiscated gold. This is not ancient history. This is the playbook, and it's happening again right now. Let me show you how. The United States currently owes $37 trillion in debt. The debt to GDP ratio is 132%. Higher than any time in American history except World War II. The annual interest payment on that debt is $1.2 trillion. That's more than the defense budget, more than Medicare, more than anything except Social Security. And interest rates are still elevated.